There's a close-up of Graham Souness, the man responsible for creating the greatest interest in the start of a new season for years.
This is the story of an awakening, of a sleeping giant stirred from its slumbers. And the alarm call was rung by a Scottish footballing legend who had played his entire career in exile. His return triggered revolution, history and chaos.
Everybody was there was English journalists there, and boy did I give them something to write.
Good play from Souness. Immediately under pressure though from Beattie.
Everybody wanted to beat not only Graham Souness but Glasgow Rangers at the time, and he was an Edinburgh boy as well, so to go there and then to do the tackle he done, I thought, yeah, here we go.
Well, that's an aspect of the Scottish game with which Graham Souness may not be familiar. And tempers have gone completely now.
I think the memories of that first game, I think they'll live with me forever. Obviously coming up from England and to get involved in a game where there was I suppose there was a bit of a melee in the middle of the pitch and sort of everybody got involved, just showed what a great bunch of lads that we had there, you know, that everybody was sticking up for everybody.
Oh, geez. It was just like American football. There was yellow flies getting thrown all over the place, and it was handbags at dawn. And to be fair, there was one tackle, I think it was a rush of blood to the head with the manager.
But that's, entirely my fault. Well, it's not entirely my fault, because it's Walter Smith's fault, if the truth being known.
I made an error on my own in that one. Graham asked me who was more likely to come and have a go at him during the game, and I mentioned a player.
And Walter said, you've got to be careful because he'll try and leave a bit on you, so I thought I'll try and retaliate first, as they say.
I forgot to take into account that Graham really wouldn't recognise any of the players that played in Scotland, never having played there. And unfortunately, he picked the wrong player. And
then one thing led to another, and I got involved, and then shamefully sent off. And my father was sitting in the front row of the director's box, and as I'm being sent off, I can look up, and his head's bowed, shaking it. And that was football's been very, very kind to me, but that was one of the all-time lows, if not the biggest low I ever had in football.
So Souness's first competitive game for Rangers lasts 37 minutes.
Of the 22 players on the pitch that day, 21 were booked.
But there was a plus to come out of it, because the instant I got sent off being involved in, and correctly so, every single Rangers player got involved in that. It showed that we were very much a team, and that stood us in good stead throughout that season.
Rangers' previous manager, Jock Wallace, had enjoyed limited success during his second spell at the club. They hadn't won the title in 9 barren years. Crowds were at an all-time low, and old firm rival Celtic had dominated the previous season. In 1985, Lawrence Marlborough became sole owner of Glasgow Rangers. His chairman, David Holmes, was set the task of waking the sleeping giant.
So, gentlemen, could I just say to you, welcome our new player manager, Graham Souness.
Rangers' first big signing of season 86-87 was an untried player manager they poached from Italian giants Sampdoria.
Welcome to the club, Graham.
It'd be a difficult task anywhere to ask somebody to play and manage a club as big as Rangers, and I think there's very few people could do it. And, Graham is one of them. He's just got that persona about him that he could handle both situations, and did so extremely well.
Well, first of all, when they appointed him as a player, you turn around, you look at the fella's stature and how good a player he was, and the presence he had on the park, and then you see the presence he has off the park, and everything he does is so professional and so right.
Rangers may have been taking a gamble on a managerial novice, but they knew that they were buying a world-class player. Graham Souness was at the centre of Liverpool's great team of the 80s, the captain and leader of the national team, and a man known both for his stylish play and an uncompromising will to win.
Well, certainly on the playing side, there was no fears, because I'd achieved a great deal as a player, and certainly going into management, that really had no fears for me either, because I was naive. Looking back, as a young man, and I think when you're a young man, you think you can take the world on, and that was my attitude.
If Souness was a risky investment, the signing of Walter Smith as his assistant was the Rangers board's insurance policy. Smith had been Alex Ferguson's number 2 during Scotland's World Cup campaign in Mexico and Jim McLean's right-hand man at Dundee United. His knowledge of the Scottish game would prove invaluable.
Walter knew everything, so he was an enormous help. But his knowledge of football was great, and his man management skills were far better than mine. You know, he had years at it.
The new management's first task was to assess the players they had inherited. An urgent meeting was called at Ibrox.
James, how you doing?
And he just now laid it out in the line. Players would be going, players would be staying, and players would be coming in. He said, so 2 or 3 weeks review of everything, everybody from now like youth right through to the older players. And by God, did he chop a few.
The players would have known that, for a lot of them anyway, that their time was up. That I would be the one that was going to be asking them to leave.
It was excitement, but then again, it was worry whether you were going to keep your job as well, whether they wanted to keep you.
Coisty, Derek Ferguson, Robert Fleck, myself, Dave McPherson and David Cooper. Out of the original, there was over 20, 30, between 20 and 30 players. As I said, some of them had come to the end of their career, but I think they knew they were moving on. But I think middle of the road players now, I think it was a bit of a shock to them to be told now you weren't going to be involved. Because, as I said now, he still had to build a team from virtually scratch with just 5 players out of 30.
For some English players, the path to European football lay north of the border. Since 1985, English football had been reeling from the shock of the Heysel Stadium disaster. FIFA had banned all English teams from Europe. Armed with the Rangers chequebook, Graham Souness had a number of massive signings in his sights.
Normally English clubs came to Scotland and bought the best Scottish players, and he was wanting to reverse that trend. He made that quite clear from day one, and that was going to be the way forward for Rangers, and it was going to be the way forward for Graham as a manager as well.
The revolution was triggered by the capture of England goalkeeper Chris Woods from Norwich City. It was a stunning bit of business, but historically, Rangers' signing policy wasn't just about ability or nationality.
Obviously, we had a few photographs on the pitch, and then we went into, I think it was the Blue Room then, like the first question I got asked was, you know, what religion was it? And even before I'd said anything at all, David Holmes turned around and says, "We don't care," and that just put a stop to it like that.
Well, we're not curious. He's a goalkeeper. He's 6'2", 4 English caps. He's come to Ibrox. That's all we want to know.
But Souness was going for the double. Having poached the England keeper, he persuaded the captain, Terry Butcher, to come north.
By getting him, you know, I think that really sent a message to everybody in Great Britain and maybe beyond that we meant business. And he was fantastic for me. You know, he led from the front. Great guy in the dressing room, and certainly on the field, he was value for money. And the Rangers supporters loved him.
Big Lofty was a tremendous character in the dressing room. One who would never give up, never shirk his responsibilities. And I think now the time he's at Rangers, I think he's the most enjoyable time in his career. An absolute leader and an absolute gentleman to play for.
A few of them will probably think I've just come up here for the money, but it's not just the money. It's coming to a great stadium like this, coming to a lovely city and coming to meet some lovely people.
With Chris and Terry coming in, that gave us that little bit of lift as well. Then it showed the character of them two to leave the cushy little jobs in England, if you want to put it that way. Probably the wrong way to put it, but to come up to Scotland and put themselves under a lot of pressure. And the two of them done that.
The talent and application of Graham Souness had taken him to the top of the game. He wanted his players to follow suit. Souness led by example.
Yeah, we were going to win the championship. You know, again, I'm 33 years old. You know, for the last 10 years as a player, I've known nothing but success. I'm used to winning things. My first year at Glasgow Rangers, we're going to win something. We'll win the championship. We've good players, and I still believed I was a good player. And I thought, we'll win the championship and we'll win it with some style.
Souness to Cooper. Stuart Monroe, good play from Monroe. Promising for Rangers, here's Fleck. A magnificent goal from Robert Fleck.
This is what I want, not what you want. It's what I want. It was Graham. He was so focused, it was unbelievable. And I expect you to win the league. I expect you to win the cup. I expect you to win the Scottish Cup. I expect to win every game.
It was either black or white with him. You know, and if you said it was white, he'd say black. But that's the image he gave, and that's the way he was, you know. But yeah, you either take it or you don't take it. It's entirely up to yourself. You can argue all you want, but he's the one that makes the decisions.
Defeats by Hibs and Dundee United early in the season were followed by a much-needed win over Celtic at the end of August. But Rangers were mid-table after 5 games. Souness demanded much more of his new team. He wanted to play football with a continental flair. Some, like Rangers winger Davy Cooper, rose to the challenge.
Coming back, Monroe going forward. Cooper cuts inside. Finn's falling back. Still has it. An amazing run by Cooper. Could be a fantastic goal, it is. Oh, Davy Cooper, brilliant. Fleck hat-trick, what a goal!
You got Davy Cooper, who was probably one of the most miserable men you'd ever meet. Albert Tatlock, they used to call him, out of Coronation Street. But he could be funny as well, but he can play. And he was someone you looked up to. You didn't mess with Davy.
While players like Cooper flourished, others struggled under the manager's expectations, both on and off the pitch.
We had a couple of skirmishes and maybe a couple of nights out we shouldn't have been out, but over the piece I think he's seen the talent. Myself and Derek Harden, I don't think he wanted to see us going down the wrong road. It was a far cry from down the wrong road, but sometimes we overindulged when we shouldn't have, and to our cost now we paid with hefty fines.
Notorious for their extracurricular activities, Ian Durrant and Ali McCoist were arrested after an altercation outside a nightclub in East Kilbride. They were the West Coast of Scotland boys who hadn't quite grasped that the Souness revolution did not include having a few midweek beers and a kebab.
Supporters have to understand that, you know, getting yourself full of drink 2 or 3 times a week is not going to make you a better player on a Saturday afternoon. So, you know, with the young men, it was about changing their eating habits and changing their living habits, basically, and making sure they got the right sleep, eating right. And yeah, I like a drink, but there is a time and a place for it. And if you're a football player, you know, you have to make sure it's the right time. It was very, very hard for them, and I understood that, but I could never tell them that too much. You know, I couldn't say, hey, by the way, you know, I fully understand it's really difficult for you. I had to be hard on them.
And I had an argument one day, and then it overboiled into, well, you're not playing, and I took it as, well, if I'm not playing, then I'll not want to stay. As I say, now just being young and naive, and the confrontation, and he shot me down in flames, and threw the book at me with all the teams in, and just to go find a team and come in and get them.
Durrant lived to play another day, but the manager still had McCoist to sort out.
You know, there was many times when I'd say to Walter, right, I found out something about that Bede, he was out last night, or he was somewhere where he shouldn't have been, I'm getting him in. So Walter would come up to my office, would sit in the office and would sit there with a serious face on, get McCoist in, intending to give him a right hard time. And he'd start off, hey, have you heard this one? Have you heard that one? And after 10 minutes, we've said nothing to him, we've listened to his jokes. He said, right, it's time to go train and get downstairs and get yourself changed. And he would just charm the birds out of the trees, football managers alike.
Football clubs need, you know, a bit of spirit. And, you know, as always, sometimes your results go up and down, and you need people to achieve a balance. And McCoist and Durrant always kept the place very lively.
The real test of that team spirit would come on the 26th of October 1986 and the Skol Cup final at Hampden against Celtic. Whatever Souness had said, it worked. Ian Durrant got the boss's message. Celtic's Brian McClare scored a stunning equaliser. Before Davy Cooper calmly stuck his penalty in the bottom corner to secure a 2-1 victory and Souness his first trophy as manager.
You know, winning any cup is extremely, well, it's special. You know, it's a feeling that you want to repeat again and again. But when it's against your biggest rival, historically, you know, the greatest rival, it's all the more sweet. You know, when you Hampden in those days, you know, 2 great big terraces, you know, one full of green, another one full of blue, and it was very special, and close game. But I think we deserve to win that one as well. I'm going to say that.
It was a big boost because I think that was a factor that we can win something, because I think we won in the Skull Cup, it's in October or November time early in the season. I think we've done well to get that, and he got his first trophy under the belt, and it gave probably the players a lot of confidence in thinking, well, hold on, we can go and do well. We've won one, let's go and see if we can win the other two as well.
Heading toward the all-important Christmas fixtures, Rangers were still 5 points adrift of league leaders Celtic. Souness's ambitions for stylish play were put on hold. All he wanted from Santa was another battle-hardened English defender.
Well, when Graham signed me, the first thing he said was he needed a hard player at the back, and that's what sort of player I was.
Corner to Aberdeen.
I wasn't frightened of anybody. You know, I think any size, any strength they had, it didn't really worry me.
You know, at the time, the opposition wouldn't say in the dressing room at 10-3, now come on, let's go out and have a jolly, lovely game of football with Glasgow Rangers today. The first thing they want to test, do they really fancy it? You know, they're up for the fight. And I always felt that Rangers, and maybe it still applies today, that we had to have a team that had 2 or 3 warriors in there that, you know, you can have a game of football today, chaps, or do you want to have a war today? And I was very conscious of that.
The battle lines were drawn, the location fixed. Ibrox, January the 1st, 1987. A win for Rangers would pile the pressure on league leader Celtic. Robert Fleck opened the scoring.
It's there! Fleck has scored for Rangers.
If you lost to Celtic and you lost badly, and you were man for man, outplayed, outfought, everything concerning the game of football, then you could turn and say, right, we're not ready, we're not good enough.
When McCoy scored Rangers second, any doubts the team had about winning the title disappeared.
That, I think, as much as anything else, gave us an enormous boost, and then that led us to believe that we could go on and win the championship.
We knew once we got onto their tails that they wouldn't be able to handle the pressure, and we just went from strength to strength then.
Chris Woods, Graham Roberts and Terry Butcher formed a formidable backbone to the Rangers' defence. By mid-January, Rangers were finally top of the league. Under the chairmanship of David Holmes, Glasgow Rangers were going from strength to strength. Home and away, they appeared unbeatable.
Once we got settled down and we got going, and then all of a sudden I think we kept about 5 or 6 clean sheets. And I'll always remember saying to Walter Smith, clean sheets. I says, how many is it before it's the record? He says, don't even come to me yet. I says, I'll tell you when you're getting close. I think another 2 or 3 games went by. I went back again, and he says, go away, And then eventually, I think with about a couple of games to go, he said, right, you're getting near.
I remember him at the time, and like everybody else, when you're on the point of getting what's the world record, you know, you're on the verge of getting that. You want to know exactly what it was, and I can always remember him saying, I remember saying to him, just concentrate and making sure that we don't lose a goal.
Edmund has had it beautifully saved.
I think it was 13 odd games or something like that Chris went without losing a goal.
Everybody was in there fighting together. If I missed a ball, somebody kick it off the line, and if somebody missed a header, I'd make a save.
Terry Butcher, but Aberdeen heading back now.
It kept the whole team going along. I mean, we had a great sort of momentum then, and you know, we were winning games, and we were winning them keeping clean sheets.
Fantastic goalkeeper, and you know, for anybody to achieve that record was phenomenal.
Going into the Scottish Cup third round tie against Hamilton Accies at Ibrox, a game they were expected to win, the England and Rangers #1, Chris Woods, was counting down the minutes.
Was it 44 minutes into the game that we actually broke the record? It was a massive, obviously the biggest cheer of the day.
For 1,196 minutes, Chris Woods had resisted all that Scottish football could throw at him to claim a new world record. But the celebration was short-lived. A goal from Hamilton Accies left-back Adrian Sprott spoiled the party. Unable to equalise, Rangers crashed to a most humiliating defeat.
likes of myself and the other strikers would have been there for the next 2 weeks and we still wouldn't have scored. And it was just one of them days, typical Scottish Cup tie. We were expecting to win 6 or 7. As I say, the goalkeeper played fantastically well. They got their break, got the goal, and we got a stick after it. And there wasn't a pretty dressing room after it anyway, that's for sure.
Graham put his foot through the TV as he walked through the dressing room, and we had to make sure that that never happened again.
That was his personality. He never minded any kind of confrontation at all and saw it as a part of. But I think a lot of the time people get him wrong from that aspect. I think most of Graham's decisions are conscious ones. He knows exactly what he's doing, and anything that he did do, he would do for effect, and do it very well.
Souness was furious. His response to failure was to make the players work harder. He deployed an old trick he'd learned at Liverpool, five-a-side football with a twist.
At that time, Souness introduced a Scotland-England game, which became a bit fisty now. And the day before the game, now we batter lumps each other. But again, now that was the competitive side. There was no quarter given. And to be fair, I think Souness liked that because he knew on a Friday if we're up for training, we'd be up for the game.
Yeah, it was good. It was like Fridays. We used to have those that had played in England against those that were born in Scotland and played in Scotland, and we used to have the shirts on, Scotland and England shirts, and it was good.
But the five-a-sides, it wasn't a jolly. The five-a-sides were real competitive, and I've seen Walter Smith pick a ball up. I said, that's it. I remember one morning he just picked the ball up because Graham Souness hit Durrant, but because Durrant was Derek Ferguson's mate, then Derek Ferguson hit Souness, and then Souness hit Derek Ferguson. He said, right, I'll take it 2 years, no problem. And I end up a catch, so Walter picked the ball up and said, that's it, finish, it's getting over the top,
But everybody, once we went on that pitch, we knew we were a family and we were one.
That family spirit would be required for the penultimate game of the season. Rangers fans, without a league championship to celebrate in 9 long years, travelled to Aberdeen in their droves. Pittodrie was never an easy place for a Rangers team to pick up points. But on the 2nd of May, Rangers were just 90 minutes away from securing their first championship under Souness.
When we got to the game, the gaffer, the first thing he said to us was like, let's get out there, be a unit, be strong, and let's not get anybody sent off.
That's Robertson. That was late, and I think there's got to be a booking.
And after 20 minutes, he got sent off.
There's a booking for Souness here, and if it is, he's off. And this could turn out to be very dramatic indeed. And look at the protest going on, but Souness is going to be booked and he's off.
You look at my career in England, I played there for how long? 16 years. I was sent off once. Come to Scotland, get sent off, I don't know, I must have been sent off about 4 times. So there's an element of I was a target up there, and that's what happened that day. I was set up a bit that day at Aberdeen, and foolishly, I went for it.
I remember Graham getting sent off, and it's strange, I was in a stand and I had to walk back down, and he always says to me, he says, I can remember your face. And as he was walking down the track, I was walking up to the dugout, and he says, you passed me without looking at me. He says, I could tell you weren't happy. So that was us. We were going up there knowing that we had to get at least a draw to win a championship, and there we were down to 10 men.
With Souness gone, it was up to the Rangers captain, Terry Butcher, to show why he was the head boy.
But then, I'm feeling really miserable about myself. But the 10 players, they were fantastic on the day. That was their day.
Miller. And I think that will be, and there it is, the final whistle. Rangers have won the league, and on come the supporters. The supporters have broken ranks, and there is a danger of the Rangers players being swamped.
When I got back to the dressing room, I had no clothes left. and they were ripping everything off you. But as I said, now they'd waited so long, and you could see now they were going to make sure they were going to enjoy the summer as much as the players. Cause it's always good now when you win the league and you've got all summer to gloat about it.
Everybody was a little bit frightened and a little bit worried because they did run on the crowd in the thousands, and rightly so. They waited a long time for it, and being a supporter, if I was standing there in the stand as well, I'm sure I'd have done the same as well, because the excitement was unbelievable.
That was a Rangers support, and they're giving us the message.
You know, the gaffer, when we came in the dressing room, he cuddled us and shook us by the hand. He said he had let us down, but we wanted to win it for him because he was a special manager.
But it was a great day. We had a great trip back, 2.5 hours. I think we had supporters like jumping on the coach with us. We were giving them glasses of champagne, and I mean that was what we'd worked really hard to do in that season. That was the icing on the cake.
The trip down, everybody was singing. The gaffer actually turned round to me on the way down. He called me onto the front seat, and he offered me a pay rise and a new contract, which I was pleased to sign.
Everything's hunky-dory. Now we're having a champagne, a few beers, and myself and Super Ali get called up the front of the bus, and to our astonishment we get fined our league bonus for an altercation we had like a couple of months prior to win the league. I think the thing that got Graham into a rage, I think, was when we started laughing at him when they fined us. But we were quite shocked and quite hurt. But as I said, it was more nerves that we started laughing. So we rubbed his head and just said, "I need danger," and walked up the back of the bus.
Yeah, I can remember doing that, and I think I was waiting for my moment to give him that good news. But he was a little bugger. I think out of all of them, he used to run me around in circles, Durante. I'd be around his house, I'd be knocking on his door, wondering where he was at times, and he used to lead me a merry dance.
He was, to be fair, for all the times we had our run-ins, there's 100,000 great things you've done for me in my career, and it's the 100,000 great things I'll remember rather than the 3 or 4 bad things we had.
Despite being sent off at the start of the season and red-carded at the end, Graham Souness and his team had delivered a league and cup double. As the crowds returned, the financial revolution off the pitch would continue to pave the way for the transformation on it. Scottish football had changed forever. The team of 86-87, with their radical English signings and homegrown heroes, ushered in a decade of success for Glasgow Rangers.
If you're a Rangers supporter, it was a dream come true. I think it's a bit like what's happened at Chelsea in the last few years. We all of a sudden were the biggest spenders in British football. All of a sudden we could outbid Manchester United, Liverpool and anybody else. And the buzz that was given our supporters was enormous. History will have to decide if I was good for Glasgow Rangers, but certainly Glasgow Rangers was good for me.